Hey everybody, this is Eric Waldrop, owner of Your Next Step Leadership Coaching, and I'm back with part two of how do you have tough conversations. Now, in the first part, I talked about things that you could prepare yourself for going into a conversation. What I want to do in this next, our next time together here is talk about how I actually have a tough conversation. So I'm going to walk you through a map of how I have a conversation. And this map for me has been extremely helpful because it helps me stay focused throughout the conversation. Much like if you were to drive from here to Los Angeles, and I live in North Carolina, you need a map that helps you whether you experience bad weather, where if you experience roadblocks, if you experience, whatever the case may be, you can get redirected and you can find your way all the way to the West Coast. Well, this conversation map for me is helpful because, as you know, tough conversations are hard. They can often be emotional. We can sometimes lose our way. We can get triggered. We forget why we're having the conversation in the first place. We lose clarity. All kinds of weird things start happening in tough conversations. So, what has helped me in the past, as a leader, as a spouse, as a dad, as a friend, as a coworker, the tools that have helped me, and I've taught these to my clients that I've worked with as well, and I'm seeing it help them too, is take the word tough, T.O.U.G.H, and I'm kind of a nerd and I like um, acronyms. So every letter of the word tough stands for something that helps me stay focused in a tough conversation. So the letter T is when I'm getting ready to have a tough conversation with somebody and I'm actually sitting down with them and I'm prepared myself for it. I begin with this: the thing I would like for us to talk about together is, and the thing stands for T, and it reminds me that as I begin a conversation, I need, especially a tough conversation, I need to begin right up front with the topic or the thing I would like for us to talk about together is. And so a lot of times when we sit down and have tough conversations with people that we love, we care about, we supervise, all that kind of stuff, they may not know why we're talking with them. So begin the conversation with, hey, the thing I would like for us to talk about together is, and T reminds me to begin with, hey, here's the thing I want us to talk about together. Oh, second letter in the word tough is, this is how I transition from the thing I want us to talk about together is, one of the reasons I want us to get clarity about this issue is, and the word one, O-N-E, begins with the letter O, and it helps me to remember one of the reasons I want us to get clarity about this. Remember, we're not having a confrontation, we're trying to get clarity. And it helps for people to understand when you're trying to solve a problem, why you feel like it's a problem. Okay. So, one of the things that helps me is if I've already stated, hey, the thing I would like for us to talk about together is this. Okay. One of the reasons I want us to get clarity about this issue is, so for instance, say you have somebody who comes into work late all the time. Okay. You're sitting down with them and you're saying, hey, the thing I would like for us to talk about together is being on time, or maybe why you're late every day. One of the reasons I want us to get clarity about this is because the team seems to function better when we're all here at the same time. Okay. So one of the reasons I want us to get clarity about this issue is because, and that way the person will go, oh, okay, now I understand why he wants to talk to me about this. Okay. Now, instead of assuming the other person is trying to do something wrong or trying to hurt your feelings or trying to go against company values or, whatever the case, the next letter in the word tough, T-O-U, U stands for help me understand your perspective and experience so far regarding this issue. Hey, help me understand why you're late. Help me understand why you're late to the office. Help me understand why you stayed out past curfew, right? If you're talking to your child. Help me understand why your feelings are hurt if you're talking to your spouse, right? Help me understand. Help me understand means there's information I may not have. And if I know that information, it will help me better make decisions, or at least be able to empathize and sympathize with what's going on with you. Okay. So it always helps me. I take the approach that there's information that I may not know about the situation. So I would rather ask, help me understand why you're consistently late to the office. Is everything okay at home? Are you having trouble dropping your kids off to daycare and you're having trouble getting here at the right time? Help me understand. Assume that there's information that you may not know. So that's T. The thing I would like for us to talk about is O. One of the reasons I want us to get clarity on this issue. U. Help me understand why this is currently an issue for you and your perspective and experience so far, regarding this issue. G, and the word tough. G stands for, at this point in the conversation, okay, I've heard their side. I've heard why they feel like, their opinion on the matter. G stands for, hey, our guidelines as a family on this issue are this, or our guidelines as a staff culture are this, or our guidelines as a leadership team are this, our guidelines as a company on this issue are this. And the reason why they're important is they help our company culture, or they help me and your mom sleep well at night, or they help us not to worry about you and you're okay, those types of things. So G, bring in the truth of the conversation. With help me understand your perspective, you've brought in the grace piece, and you're assuming there could be information you don't know. With G, you're trying to mix grace with truth in this conversation to say, okay, I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt. There's information I may not know, but listen, the guidelines that we have as a company, as a staff culture, as a leadership team are this. And the reason why that's important is this. And at this point in time in the conversation, you've heard their side, you've gracefully brought up the issue, but now you're bringing a little bit of truth to the conversation. And if you're like me, this is where you may be hesitant to be bold and to be honest, but it's always, always, always right to be honest, even if your voice shakes. Okay. Be honest and share what you feel like you need to say, because if not, you're going to replay this conversation a million times in your head after you have it and go, I wish I said this. I wish I said that. Don't be a jerk about it, but be truthful, be graceful, but be honest. Okay. So let them know, hey, the guidelines that we have as a team, as a family, as whatever are this, and this is why it's important. And the last letter, as you're having the tough conversation, the last letter is H. And here's why H is important. So when I'm in a tough conversation and I'm talking with somebody and I feel like I've heard their side, I feel like they understand the guidelines for why I'm bringing this up in the first place. H stands for, hey, Joe, you and I have been sitting here talking about, the struggles that you've been having with not getting to work on time. And I've heard your story and your side of the story and the situation, and you've heard the guidelines for why it's important. So far, as we wrap up this conversation, what did you hear me say? I'm concerned about how I came off in this conversation and what you're taking away from this conversation. H stands for, what did you hear me say? And this is a beautiful time and a wonderful time in the conversation for you to get clarity as the one who really initiated the conversation, to determine, what did this person hear you say? What did your son or daughter hear you say? What did your coworker hear you say? What did your employee hear you say? What did your boss hear you say? What did your leadership board and team hear you say? And that way they'll say, well, Eric, I heard you say this, or I heard you say that. And if it's true, you can go, yes, that's exactly what I meant to say. Or if they say, well, Eric, I heard you say you just want me to be on time because, you just want me to make coffee for you. No. That's not what I meant. Okay. That's not what I said. And then that gives you an opportunity to correct any false thing that may have been heard in that conversation, or it gives you a chance to reiterate what has already been said and validate them. So that's the map that I use. A tough conversation. The thing I would like for us to talk about, one of the reasons that I want us to get clarity about this, hey, help me understand your side of the story. G, hey, the guidelines for this, and here's why it's important are this. And last, hey, what did you hear me say? I care about you. I care about our friendship, or I care about our working relationship, whatever the case may be. I care about, as a dad, my son, what did you hear me say in this conversation? And that'll give you a chance to make sure that your tough conversation will go all well. So guys, try it. Let me know if it works for you. It's worked for me for the last few years, and I'm teaching this to teams and clients, and I'm seeing this help them too. So react and let me know if it's helpful for you. And thank you again for joining me in part 2 of Tough Conversations.